Hey, Southeast Missouri sports fans. Enjoy the show and want to take it on the go? You can find every episode on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or YouTube. Tune in as they air by searching SEMO Sports Zone wherever you may be listening. Welcome to SEMO Sports Zone, presented by A Corp Sports. You're listening to this on Friday, March 7th. Dave, how are we doing today?
Doing just fine. Just trying to get through this season here, where we're in the final couple of weeks here.
Yeah, we're on that tail end. I don't know if you feel like I feel. I'm starting to drag a little bit. That doesn't mean there's not exciting games going on, but at the same time, I feel like we've just kind of hit that apex of just like, all right, all that energy is just starting to get kind of released. Some teams are getting knocked out of tournaments and everything like that, and then you're just kind of like, whew.
Yeah, it's definitely kind of been a draining season, but it's been a fun season. So.
Absolutely. Do you want to start with Monday games?
Let's do it.
All right, first up on the docket, we got Richland versus Risco, 59-74.
This was a good game. I mean, Risco, I thought they played at their pace. They rebounded the ball really well. They started out strong, which they needed to do. I mean, Risco did everything they needed to do to not kind of fall into that trap that they had last year when they played Richland. And I thought they came out and took care of business and Richland kind of fought back a little bit there early, I believe, second quarter. But then Risco, I think, went on a 14-3 run there to kind of put it away at the end of the first half and just never really kind of looked back.
Yeah, I think that was kind of Richland's MO going into this game, Risco's MO going into this game is that, they didn't want to make the mistakes they did last year. And it was a great learning experience to play Richland throughout the season too. Mm-hmm. Richland, Tucker Hughes, he had one of his better nights. I think he scored over 20 points. So you can't say that he didn't show up in this game especially, but it just wasn't enough to put Risco away.
Yeah, Risco kind of took that step from last year that Richland never really took this year, and you just could see it over the course of this game and over the course of the season, but definitely this game. You could just tell that Smith, Fortner, they just really kind of raised their game a little bit more, and Richland just never really kind of raised their game enough to to match it this year. And good luck to Risco moving forward. Richland, that's they lose quite a bit off this team, so it's going to be kind of a different season next year. They still have some good players coming back, but they do lose quite a bit, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens to them in the future. Yeah,
I'm curious to see what kind of adjustments are going to be made to that team to kind of fill those positions in. But hey, Richland's going to be they might be down next year, but who knows?
Yeah, 3 straight district titles. You can't
you can't sneeze at that.
Yeah, that's right. I mean that's a good thing.
You're coming from the days of how Richland might have been, even a few years ago, of just kind of being that lower tier seed, especially in like the BCT and places like that. So you can't look at the past few seasons and say, no, we haven't seen improvement.
Oh yeah, they've really improved, and that this program is at a completely different spot than it was 5, 6, 7 years ago.
And for Risco, I think at this point just keep that good time rolling. You got a tough game coming up, but you played this game on a neutral site. Gideon's not that much of a neutral site for Risco. They played there before, obviously, but they know they can do it.
Yeah, Risco can go on the road. We'll talk, I'm sure, about the Chadwick game coming up, but they've got their work cut out for them. But they're playing well. This is how you want to be playing at this time of year, and they're playing really well. So we'll see what happens.
Absolutely. All right, kind of. I don't know if you want to consider this game an upset or not. I certainly wasn't expecting it, but South Iron versus Hayti, 60-57.
I tell you what, it was an upset kind of going into the fourth quarter. It was Hayti. Hayti controlled this game the whole way. They were up 18-10 after a quarter, 37-29 at half, and then up 11, 50-39 after 3 quarters. But you just can't. This South Iron team just keeps coming. Mm-hmm. And Sawyer Huff is just a heck of a player. 37 points.
It's crazy.
37 of their 60, and I think only 3 players actually hit a field goal in this game. They had some others hit some free throws, but it was just the Huff show late, and he just put them on his back and said, we're not losing this game. And Hayti, just the youth of Hayti, I think finally kind of showed late in that game. South Iron tied it at 55 with about a minute and a half left. And then Hayti got the lead real quick, but then South Iron they just didn't let them have anything else after that, and were able to close them out. And just a great performance from South Iron, and Hayti, learning experience. Like you said, they're a very young team. This is a learning experience for them because they're going to be pretty talented in the next couple of years.
Yeah, you look at Hayti and where they're at in the district and everything like that. They're going to be dangerous. They're going to keep being dangerous, and I think they've got a solid 3 years ahead of them where they're just always going to be in that contending spot, if not just outright winners.
Yeah, I mean, the future is very bright for Hayti, and the South Iron team. They've got their eyes set on Puxico. They're going to have them at home, so we'll see how that one plays out. But I tell you what, the more I watch Huff play, he's just a fantastic player. I talked about him after the Caruthersville game, and I'm really impressed with what he brings.
Yeah, and we kind of we talked a little bit back and forth because recently South Iron lost to Bunker, correct? And that was like one of those moments where we're like, well, what's happening?
Yeah, they lost to Neelyville at one point, and they kind of had some losses there, but they had their center go out for the season with an injury. They've had some players move, and yet here they are still in the state quarterfinals. So they've had this adversity, and they've been able to get over it. And they even in this game, you're down 11 going into the fourth quarter, and you're able to come back and win the game. So kudos to South Iron, man. They're a tough, just a mentally tough team.
Yeah, and kudos to Hayti too for having a really great season.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just off the bat, they're so close to winning that game. Had to play some really tough games recently too. So yeah, hats off to them.
If you're Hayti, you're kicking yourself, but you've got a couple more years. But you got to take advantage. You got to make this a learning experience, and don't have this happen again in the future. So it's definitely something to learn. And with that young talent they have, I expect to see them back in the same spot.
Absolutely. And to talk about a team that's just going to continue rolling, Valley versus Puxico 40-74.
Yeah, Puxico's just a train right now. I mean, they're just rolling. I mean, they dominated this game start to finish. Bloomfield's basically the new home court for Puxico now. I figured it up. Puxico's played 17 games in Bloomfield the last 2 years. They're 15-2. They're 11-2 at home the last 2 years. I mean, so they've got more wins on the Bloomfield court than they do their own home court, and they play like it. I mean, they play really well there. They're very comfortable there.
They travel well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the fans travel, and Valley. This was their first playoff game since '92. I think they were a little bit caught by the moment early, and Puxico just made them pay. And they got off that great start. Burchard was fantastic from the start, and then the second half, the defense took over for Puxico. I think they only gave up like 14, 15 points in the second half. So I mean, they just rolled and looked good doing it, and they're just a train right now.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what we've seen from Puxico every time they have one of these games like this. Is the other team gets hit in the mouth pretty quickly. They don't really know how to recover, and then by the time they start to get their footing, then that defense just keeps them locked down the rest of the game.
Yeah, they did a great job defensively in that second half.
And so, I mean, for this game, like, how much do you even talk about it? Just because we know what we've seen before, and when Puxico's in that stride, they're in that stride.
Yeah, I start to say there's just not a whole lot to say. I mean, Puxico did what we thought they might do, is just and just rolled them. And when Puxico was hitting shots from the outside, they're just tough to beat because they rebound well, they defend well, and if they're hitting their shots, I mean, they're just tough to beat.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, we've said it a couple times just around the office, is that Puxico lives and dies by that three, but at the same time, I don't even know if that's true when you got Jet Hancock and Landon Burchard getting their points, all those 3 points, like, that's just supplemental.
Yeah, sometimes I think they depend on it too much, but when you're making them, you might as well shoot them, right? I mean, that's just the way it goes. And right now, Puxico's been hot the last few games on the three, and so you can't say anything about it, and you can't fall in love with it, but at the same time, they're taking the shot, they're taking good shots, and they're hitting good shots. So not much to say, really.
Absolutely, and I think for me, it's always that three ball that comes from Parsley that. It always gets me where it's just like, how did you not have anybody defending him?
Yeah. He gets that shot off quick, and if they're not, you've got to be. I think you've got to play them a man. I think you got to play them man and play them a really tight man. Watch the screens and stuff. But I think that you can't zone them, because if you zone them, I mean, Parsley gets that shot off so quick. So do the rest of them too. Mm-hmm. I mean, they get the shots off quick. So it's just tough. They're just tough to play a zone against.
All right, let's move on to Woodland versus East Prairie. Ended that game 82-67.
Man, that was a great atmosphere, just a tremendous atmosphere. First time both of these teams had ever made it that far, and East Prairie, they showed out, it came out to a great start. I think they
started off strong,
9-0 start, and it looked like, oh man, East Prairie is really here. But I felt like Woodland they just hung in there. They didn't when that happened at the Stoddard County tournament, Woodland blinked, and they weren't able to respond. They were able to respond against East Prairie. Mm-hmm. They kind of hung in there, finally got the lead there around halftime, and they kind of switched to a zone, mixed up the defense a little bit, kind of confused East Prairie, I thought, but man, it was just too many turnovers down the stretch for East Prairie, and Woodland played really well. And you just can't, you can't knock Woodland. I mean, they're just playing really well right now too.
Yeah, I think Woodland just really responded to East Prairie's aggressive style. I mean, the biggest factor that I think everybody said going into this game was, East Prairie's size, how aggressive they are in the paint. And, at the start, I thought that was what was going to carry it. Like you said, 9-0 start. It didn't look like the game was over, but it was like, well, this is a big deficit. I've seen Woodland get punched in the mouth. How do they respond? And they responded by every long pass. They just snuck a guy in there to, steal that right out. And, I think East Prairie just got tired too. That was one of the other big things, is that every time somebody on Woodland got just a little bit tired, a little bit slow, they were able to switch them out. And East Prairie just didn't really have that option.
Yeah, and too, I think East Prairie, we talk about, depending on the three too much. I thought East Prairie, started shooting threes a little bit too much, especially there in the second half. You've got the size advantage inside, get the ball inside to Johnson, and they were just kind of settling for those threes. And again, I think the different defenses kind of confused them for a little bit. They weren't sure where to attack, and so that it's a lot of times when that happens, you just shoot those threes. And I thought they settled a little bit too much. But at the same time, Woodland did a great job. Giving those, they weren't hitting those shots, give them those shots, and really kind of pack it in and take away that inside game. They did that, and Lane Lee, Kinder, they both played great.
Yeah.
Woodland did exactly what they needed to do. They played a great game, and I think they're primed to maybe get to a Final Four here.
Yeah, I think if any team has kind of that potential right now, I'd say Woodland in Class 3. That's where they're at. Yeah. For East Prairie at the same time, like Noah Johnson. I mean, he had a good game on paper. He had over 20 points, I think. It never felt like he clicked though. I don't know why. And maybe that's just my own eye test failing, but it seemed like he was having a quiet night. I know he's probably pretty frustrated by the end of the night too.
Yeah, I'm sure he wanted the ball more inside, and they just couldn't get it to him. And whether they were shooting outside or just not getting him the ball. I mean, you've got to have him touch the ball pretty much every trip down the floor, I think, in a game like that, and especially whenever he's got the size advantage that he did. But it just didn't happen that way. I mean, East Prairie played well. Woodland did a great job defensively, taking some things away. So, it was just a really good ball game. It was really, it was a 15-point game, but I didn't think it was a 15-point game. I thought it was a lot closer than it felt a lot closer than that up till the very end, and just a really nice game. But I love the crowd and the atmosphere. It was really good. At the end of the third quarter, start of the fourth quarter, they play that Dixieland Delight. That's kind of a cool scene. Really like that. But just kudos East Prairie. It was a great season. It's been a great run for East Prairie. These last 3 or 4 years have been some of the best basketball that East Prairie's ever had in the history of their school. So kudos to them. And then Woodland, man, they've got, again, like you said, we got a chance to get them to the Final Four.
Absolutely. Yeah. Nothing for East Prairie to hang their head about. I think they played a great game. Like you said, past 3 seasons, been awesome for that town.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to Class 4 District 1 tournament. We've got Fredericktown versus Donovan, 65-52.
Yeah, Fredericktown's a lot better than I gave them credit for. After watching them play on Wednesday night, they're a lot better than I gave them credit for, and they took care of Donovan, and they've got a really nice freshman named Tucker Reitzel, and I believe he's the Brett Reitzel used to be the coach at Cape Central and Fredericktown. I believe that's his grandson, but he's a player, just a freshman, and he can score, and he's going to be a really good one. And they were just too much for Donovan, and especially playing at home, they play well there. And Donovan ended up with just kind of an average year for Donovan. I know that they wish they had a better, but they had some good games over the course of the season. But Fredericktown, man, they played really well.
Yeah, I didn't really get eyes on this game, so I don't really know the specifics of it. But on paper, I kind of thought that I was kind of going off with what you said last week. Is one, I don't know, but two, I kind of thought Fredericktown might lose this game to Donovan. I've seen Donovan play pretty good games, just depending on the circumstance. So I was kind of surprised by that, but I think you pretty much said it better than I could.
Yeah.
And then we've got Kennett versus Perryville, 78-65.
Yeah, Kennett, Kennett got up and down, but it was, just too much Watson, too much, Kennett, Perryville is, like I said, Perryville is better than what they've been in the years past, but they're just still just not where they need to be as far as to beat a team like Kennett, or, they're just still not quite to that level yet. They're getting there, but they're just not there yet. And Kennett took advantage of that and really had a nice game, got up and down the floor, Perryville likes to push the tempo, and Kennett was fine with that. And because they've got some kids that can score, especially in that type of game.
Yeah, and we've talked about Dyson Watson several times this season. Is he a senior?
Yes.
Which that's going to be a tough loss, I would say.
Yeah, he and Gilmore both are seniors. Those are going to be two big losses for them because they're probably their two main scorers on, night in and night out. And but yeah, Dyson, and he makes everybody else better because he can create, and whenever he creates, he shares the ball well too. So they're really going to miss him.
Absolutely, and I'm sure Coach McBroom knows this, but he knows that he's going to have to figure out something to get another score in there to kind of make some noise, but. I don't know. That's a big loss, but hey, good one for Kennett against his Perryville team. And we're obviously going to talk about what happened on Wednesday night. So that is what it is. But let's go ahead and move on to Wednesday games. Notre Dame versus Fredericktown, 54-47.
This game was a little bit more than what you anticipated. This was, Notre Dame beat them, I think 66-28 to open the season. And they were on the ropes late in this fourth quarter. I mean, it was Notre Dame started fast. I think they led like 30-15, but Fredericktown had it cut to 43-42 with about 2 minutes left. And Dohan made a couple of nice plays. Reitzel, he fouled out. I think he fouled out with 27 points, so he had a heck of a game. And Notre Dame just kind of made those plays late in the game, which they needed to make. They lost their last 4 games that were decided by 4 points or less. They lost all 4 of them. So, but they're used to playing in these close games too. And this was a big moment. A lot of seniors on this team. And, they kind of stepped up and weren't going to allow this Fredericktown team to get the upset. But, man, they had them on the ropes late, and it didn't look great. Notre Dame was struggling to score, but Dohan, like I said, made some buckets there at the end. He and Johnson had a good game. I think Johnson had 18, Dohan 20. So, those two seniors kind of took over for him. Yeah,
we talk about just kind of the unpredictable, nature of, what teenagers do at the same time when you get in big game situations like this, especially for very senior heavy. I think that adds that little bit of motivation to kind of push you ahead. And, to play Fredericktown this close, I mean, obviously not ideal, but at the same time, I think Notre Dame's going to go in with a chip on their shoulder of just like, well, we got to do it for our guys.
Yeah. Yeah. And the seniors stepped up. I think when you've got 10 seniors, I mean, you've got to take advantage of that. And they did, and the best player for Fredericktown is a freshman. So, I mean, obviously, the future's bright for Fredericktown, but this Notre Dame team did what they needed to do down the stretch and made the plays in the last couple of minutes. But you don't like what you saw with Fredericktown just, chipping away. Notre Dame just wasn't able to score. And that's what we kind of look at in this district. There's really, I mean, while Notre Dame's the favorite and a heavy favorite, there's not a team that you're like, oh, that's a really, really good basketball team. And that's just kind of what you have in this district.
Yeah. And then just to kind of put a cap on that too, Dexter versus Kennett, 63-49.
Yeah. Dexter won this game on the glass. I mean, they did a really nice job, getting the rebounds and stuff, made their free throws down the stretch. I think Sepulvedo had 11 for 11, 20 points for the game, but they made their free throws down the stretch. They did everything they could to give this game back to Kennett. They turned the ball over a lot in the fourth quarter, missed a couple of gimmies, but Kennett just couldn't capitalize on it. Dyson Watson, he had a great game, of course. He always does. He had 26, but Dexter just did what they needed to do very late, hitting those free throws. And again, any miss, it seemed like they cleaned up the glass, and they got their third win over Kennett this year. And this one's kind of more decisive than the other two, but it was a really good game down at the end. It didn't seem like it was a 14-point game. 14 was the biggest lead in the game, and it just didn't seem like it was that big of a margin, and right till the very end.
Yeah, and I mean for Dexter at this point too, they weren't going to take that to another double overtime. I think that's the thing about Dexter at this point is, the mistakes they make. I don't feel like they make them twice typically against a team. I mean, you can against Puxco, that's a different story.
Right.
But for most teams, I think anytime they have to play Dexter twice, it's usually they close that gap. I would say.
Well, they're going to need to close that gap against Notre Dame on Friday, so we'll see
absolutely.
about that.
All right, let's talk about Class 5 District 1. We got Farmington versus DeSoto, 66-34.
Yeah, Farmington just took care of their business and rolled. Didn't really. I mean, this game was a non-game early, and they just kind of did what they needed to do. Got a lot of guys off the bench to play. So just what you expect a top seed to do against an 8 seed.
Yeah, and I mean the expectations for Farmington at this point is that they're going to meet Sykeston in the final. That's I feel like that's just pretty much where everybody's mind's at. I mean, obviously they got to play these games. We'll talk about those upcoming games there, but that's where it's at.
Yeah, that's the game everybody wants to see.
And then Hillsborough versus Poplar Bluff, 75-69.
Yeah, I thought Hillsborough might get Poplar Bluff. I mean, Hillsborough's not a bad team, and they're going to give Farmington a game. I think they played a couple times already this year, and they'll give Farmington a decent test. But I don't think they can beat them. But Hillsborough's not a bad team. They're a really good program. They're always very tall, strong, physical teams, and they took care of Poplar Bluff. It was a close game, but they'll take on Farmington. I think Farmington will pull that out double figures, but I think they'll give them a little bit of game for a while.
I could see that. All right, Sykeston versus North County, 113-64.
Well, for some reason, North County decided that they were going to try to run with Sykes. Hey, nobody's tried that apparently this year, and Sykeston enjoyed that. I think they had 100 by the third quarter. Had 44 points in the second quarter.
Lordy.
Just a ho-hum type game. Sykeston loves to play that up-tempo game, and if you play that up-tempo game, you're playing right into their hands. And PJ Farmer, he had 26 points, I think 17 of them in the second quarter. He just dominated. They got a ton of turnovers. It turned into easy buckets, and just North County was just not up to that task. And Sykeston's playing really well. They're shooting it well, and whenever you get them in an up-tempo game like that, they love that.
Well, they expect those fast breaks at that point.
Yeah. They speaking of trains, the Sykeston's, whenever they get rolling like that, they're like a train, and you better not be on those tracks.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be a tough ask for especially Cape Central coming up too. That this is the third time Sykeston's seen Cape Central this season, and Cape Central's going to have to respond. They're not going to be played. They're not going to be playing it up tempo. I don't think that expectation was there anyway. But now they're going to have to see can we slow it down even more?
Yeah. So Sykeston had 44 in the second quarter. Cape Central had 48 in the entire game. So it's different styles there that they're playing.
Yeah, on paper that looks like just a completely lopsided game to me, but I don't know.
Cape Central will rise. I think they'll rise to the occasion, and I think they'll play them pretty well. I think I think Sykeston gets through that game, and the previous two games, they don't mean anything at this point. But,
it's true, yeah.
But, Cape Central defensively is not playing bad. I mean, they're playing really well. I just don't think they have the offense to score enough points to beat Sykeston.
That's been pretty consistent all year, though, ever since Edwards came out. I mean, that's what Cape's been looking for is defensive identity. They can do it, but they need to score those points.
Yeah.
And let's talk about Cape Central versus Festus, 48-39.
Yeah, I didn't get many eyes on this, but, they just locked them down defensively. Just weren't. It was a close game through, I think it was 35-32 going into the fourth, but they just, Cape Central just played well defensively and did what they needed to do to win. And that's their MO. That's been their MO, especially the last half of this year is, hey, we're going to guard you. We're going to spread the floor. We're going to try to get to the rim off the dribble. And that's their game plan. Mm-hmm. And it's worked so far with the exception of, just a couple of games here against Sykeston and a couple of others. But that's their game plan, and they're going to stick to it. And they do it very well. So we'll see how they match up against Sykeston on Friday night. But, that's what Coach Frazier's kind of instilled into them is this defensive, slower pace game. And they've kind of embraced it.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a bad technique to implement at all. This disruptive defense, it really does put a lot of people on their heels. And I mean, we saw that with Jackson too. Jackson played a little frustrated about it the whole time. And, I think that's where Cape Central thrives is when they can get you kind of off tempo and then they don't score a ton of points. That's one of their biggest downfalls right now is they don't have a score that can really capitalize on it. But at the same time, when they do get those openings, they do make it.
Yeah. They can get to the rim. That's the type of game I think that really frustrates Sykeston is that slower tempo. They really like to get out and run. Whenever you slow it down on them, that can kind of frustrate them, get them out of their game a little bit. And I think that's what Cape Central's hoping for. But yeah, they do it very well.
All right. And that covers all the games we had on Monday and Wednesday. Now, do we want to talk about upcoming games?
Let's do it.
All right. Risco versus Chadwick, Class 1 quarterfinal.
Well, Chadwick's the defending state champs. So, Risco knows what they're getting. Chadwick is not quite the team they've had in the past. I know they've won six of the last 7 district titles, up there, but they only have 1 loss to a team that wasn't state ranked. So, I mean, they have 7 losses, but all of them have been good losses. And even the team they lost to is like a 19-win Fatima, however you say that. But they got a kid named Clayton Garrison. He's 6'1", but he plays about 6'3", 6'4". He can jam. I mean, he can get up and dunk the ball. I mean, you really have to know where he's at all times because he can get to the rim, but he can also pull up and shoot it. He's a good defensive player. He gets a lot of steals, and they got a point guard, Tristan Smith. He's about 5'9", but he really distributes it well, sees the floor very well, doesn't really turn it over much. He can shoot it. And then they got some other guys here that are all solid players and all can shoot. They got this little tiny kid named Gentry Gilbert. He's a freshman. He looks about 5'6" and weighs about 90 pounds, but a little lefty, but he can shoot it. If you leave him open, he's going to knock it down. So they've got some kids that can really play. And so Risco is going to have to do a nice job of getting out, taking care of the basketball. Chadwick likes to press. They like to run the floor a little bit, and they're tough to zone because they'll shoot you to death. So it's going to be a tough task for Risco. They're not real deep, so they can use that. They've only played 3 home games this entire year.
Really?
Yeah.
Jeez.
So they're used to being on the road. This is, I believe, is at a neutral site. I believe it's in Sparta.
It's Sparta.
So I'm expecting a great game. I really am. I think Risco can beat them. I really do. I think Risco can go in there and beat them, and if so, that they'll be primed to make a run for a state title here. But I think this possibly could be the state championship game. Yeah,
that's kind of the expectation that I think around the area is that's what this game's going to be. I think for Risco, if you get your shooting, like if you shoot the way you did against Richland, I think you've got this game. Not handily, but you've got a good chance to win this game. For Chadwick, that's been that looming threat. I would say for Risco, and out of any game that's happening right now this week, that's going to be the most competitive one, I would say. So I can't really give you a score prediction, anything like that, but I think it's going to be very close.
Yeah, I think Risco by 2. I'm going to go Risco by 2. I think it's going to be a great game. I like the fact that Chadwick likes to get up and down the floor. I like the fact that they like to press a little bit because I think that kind of plays into Risco's hands. Now, they may turn the ball over a little bit here and there, but I think that they can – I think that style of play kind of fits in with what they like to do. I kind of go back to the Puxco game whenever Puxco played Chadwick, and I kind of foresee that exact type of game. And I think Risco guards well enough that they're going to be able to they've got to stay out of foul trouble. That's the biggest thing. They've got to stay out of foul trouble. If they get in foul trouble, that could be a problem. But you've got to know where this Clayton Garrison is, because I'm telling you, he's a player.
And I think for Risco at this point too, you've got all the momentum behind you. Ever since your incident at that Tri-County, I feel like they've just had a fire lit behind them that they want to be in this spot. They want to get to that state tournament. Obviously, every team does, but I feel like for Risco, it just hits different this year.
Yeah, this whole year they've been dialed in, it seems like, and they only have 2 losses. So that's a
quiet 2 losses too.
Yeah, quiet 2 losses too. And I go back and I'm like, how did they lose to Dexter? You look back at that game and it's just like, man, this team now that's playing, I wouldn't see losing that game. But they've had a great year, and I hope they can go in there and continue it.
Absolutely. All right, moving on. Puxco versus South Iron.
Oh, obviously Puxco's coming in. They're a train. They're the favorite here. South Iron, though, they can play any style. They can get up and down the floor. They can play a slower pace. However you want to play, they can play that. I tell you, Sawyer Huff, he's a heck of a player. And I don't think he goes off for 37 against Puxco. Puxco's too good defensively. I think they'll do a better job on him. But at the same time, he's going to get his points because he's just a really, really good player. You just got to make sure the other guys don't beat you. They've got some size. They've got a 6'5" guy in there, Brady Crum. They've got a couple of 6'2s in there that can shoot a little bit. Wyatt Funk, he's a good little spot-up shooter. And Daggett, he's a good defender. He's 6'2" as well, so they have some size. They're going to play a physical type game, I would assume. They're going to have that home crowd behind them. Mm-hmm. So Puxco can't go in there and not play well, but I expect Puxco to go in there and play well, to shoot it well. South Iron plays a lot of zone, and that plays, I think, right into Puxco's hands. So we'll see how that plays out, but I think Bircher's going to be able to get to the rim and do what he does, and I think that's going to free up some of their shooters on the outside.
Yeah, as much playful banter as we've had with Puxco this season too, I have to think about this is the game that I think confidence is one thing, and I think they are confident, but I think it's also that lock-in confidence of just like, we're not overlooking this team. Yeah, and I don't think you should. I think you should play your best basketball. Obviously, you've got it. You know what your formula is. Your defense is rock solid, and it is the thing that every team that is so confident running into just dismantles, and that that's what you need right now. Is you need that strong defense. You need the 3-point shooting. Like you said, Burchard's going to get his. I'm taking Puxico to win this game, obviously, but it's not a game to overlook. And I think everybody in Puxico realizes that too, that this is one of those bigger games that, it's not one of those final roadblocks, but it certainly feels like it.
Yeah, this is a game that you kind of exercise some demons, kind of like Risco did against Richland. It's the same. I kind of see this as the exact same type of game. And I think their experience that they have, the big games that they played, the county tournament, the Christmas tournament, all these big games that they played, I think that plays into this. I mean, they're not. The stage isn't going to be too big for them. I think they're going to be fine. I think I don't think they turbo clock anybody here. I think it's a 10 to 15 point game, and they win it. But I do think Puxico gets out of this with a win and goes to the Final Four, and we'll see what they do there. There's some good teams going to be waiting for them there. But man, this is like you said, this is kind of their chance to kind of exercise some demons, and I think they do that. And again, you just want to go in there and play well, and they've been playing well the last couple of weeks for sure. And so we'll just see how it plays out.
Yeah, this is definitely the game that I'm not saying anybody's clutching at anything and being like, I hope, but I think there is just kind of that all right, take a breath in and we can let it out when we're done. Yeah. But I think Puxico is going to stand on their business. I think they come out with a win.
Yeah, I think that, like I said, the experience there is going to be key for them, I think.
Absolutely. All right, and then Jefferson, I don't know how to actually say it. Jefferson, in parentheses, Festus versus Woodland.
Yeah, Jefferson from Festus, I guess. Jefferson does they're 20-8, but only 5 of their 20 wins have been against teams with winning record. So they're a very young team. They start 4 sophomores and a junior. Their best player is Colton Broadwater. He's a 6'4" sophomore, averages about 16 a game, 7 rebounds a game. He's a good player, and they have some other good players too. Cooper Frisk is a good guard who can shoot a little bit, and they've got some size. They've got a 6'3", a 6'5". So they're going to pose some issues, I think, for Woodland, but they don't play at the pace of Woodland, and they're going to be going into Woodland. I'm sure that Woodland, that place is going to be rocking, kind of just like it was at East Prairie.
I would imagine.
Yeah, Woodland's they're 7-1 at home to start with. I mean, they're already, they play well at home. And, Jefferson normally plays a man. They did play some 2-3 matchup on Monday, but I think this is the first quarterfinal appearance for both teams. I think the fact that Woodland playing at home, I think that's a huge benefit for them. And I think they've got some, really good talent there. I think Woodland wins this game. Even though Jefferson will pose some problems for them, I think Woodland can get through this. Yeah,
I think psychologically the only thing I could see that might, cause some some little divots in what we expect this game to be is kind of Woodland's just kind of that energy going into this game, because you're further than you've ever been. So what's that kind of do for you? You've never been on this stage before, but it is your home court. So I don't really foresee them losing this game, but anything can happen.
Yeah, once you get in these quarterfinals, anything can happen. I expect Woodland to win this game. I expect them to win it pretty handily, but at the same time, this, like you said, it's the first time they've been here, first time Jefferson's been here. You don't know how each team's going to handle it, and both teams have some young players. So, I think Woodland's a little bit more seasoned with some juniors, but again, they're in a spot they've never been in. So we'll see. But I think, just looking at on paper, I think Woodland just has a little bit too much talent.
Yeah, stats on paper, it's about a 10-point difference between points per game, things like that. Yeah. So I would say this is kind of more heavily skewed towards Woodland at this point. And then let's talk about Sykeston versus North County. Oh, sorry. Wrong spot on my notes. Notre Dame versus Dexter.
Well, Notre Dame's a clear favorite here. I mean, Notre Dame obviously beat Dexter by 25 points a week and a half ago or so. And, for Dexter, they can't turn it over. And they can't depend too much on the threes. You've got to try to get the ball inside, find different ways to score. You can't just rely on Geatley and Temples hitting 3-point shots. So
we've said that all year, though.
Yeah, I mean it's the same thing as all year. I think they've got to keep the game in the 50s, keep it kind of a lower scoring game. And they've got to take Dohan away. I think Dohan's going to be the difference. I think him inside. I think that's just I think that's the difference. I think he's going to, I don't think Dexter can stop him inside. And I think Notre Dame gets this district championship.
I think a lot of it too is just what does Dexter's 3-point defense look like too? Because I've seen Notre Dame kind of shoot the lights out when they need to. And I think this is another case where you can't sleep on that fact too.
Yeah. If Notre Dame comes out hot like they did at home, that's, it's game over. But, they're playing on the road. They didn't shoot it well against Fredericktown. So, there's that going into it too. You're going to be tight, district championship game. Nerves are going to be there. So, if you're Dexter, you're definitely hoping that they're not hitting. I mean, that's kind of the a hope that you have. But Dexter just can't turn it over and give them easy baskets. You've got to make them earn their points. And Dexter turned it over way too much in that first game, and the press really got to him. And the guard play, which we've talked about all year, just too many turnovers. And Notre Dame's going to come back out and try that same press. So you just can't turn it over. And Notre Dame, I think with their seniors, this is their moment. And you want to get this win and then see what you can do once you get into the playoffs. So I fully expect Notre Dame to win this game.
I would think so. We've been talking about Notre Dame this way since SEMO Conference at this point. For Dexter, I mean, I've kind of said it all year too, is that, taking care of turnovers and also just, those free points you get at the basket that just don't go in. That's something you got to clean up. And I think that would make this a very different game. But at the moment, I'm going to take Notre Dame too.
Yeah, because Dexter's not making those shots near the rim. They miss a lot of those shots around the rim. They depend on the three too much, and they turn it over. And it's kind of been they have improved over the course of the year. Don't get me wrong, they've gotten better, but it's just one of those things where you've got to make those shots here against Notre Dame, because this is a very experienced team that's going to make you pay for whenever you make a mistake.
Absolutely. All right, Farmington versus Hillsborough.
Well, we talked about that a little bit. I think Farmington wins this game. I think they're destined to meet Sykes in this championship game. I think that's what everybody kind of wants to see, and I think that's kind of what we're heading toward. And I think they've just got a little bit too much to lose to Hillsborough. Would it shock me if Hillsborough beat them? No, because crazy stuff like that happens in the playoffs. But I certainly wouldn't be if I was a betting man. I certainly wouldn't be taking Hillsborough.
Yeah, I think the expectation is that Farmington's going to play against Sykeston. I don't see any reason why that wouldn't happen. And Farmington, they're on their home court, so they've got that advantage going for them. Anything could happen, but I don't see Farmington losing this game.
Yeah, it's just tough to see. It's just tough to see a scenario different than Farmington and Sykeston in that championship.
And then Sykeston versus Cape Central.
Yeah, and Sykeston, I think, is just, again, too much offense. Even if Cape's able to slow this game down, I don't know if they have, Sykeston would have to really, really be cold. And they've got so many different guys that can score. It's just hard to believe that they would have that many guys cold. And to score as low as what I think Cape needs them to score. So, if this game's in the 40s, then I think Cape's got a shot. But once this game, I think, gets in the 50s, I think it's all Sykeston.
Yeah, I think this is Sykeston's locked in moment too. I don't think there's any reason for them to kind of, blanket anything that's going to happen in this game. This isn't, it's still a rivalry game technically, but this isn't like for the season or anything like that. So I don't think this is one of those things where Sykeston's going to come in and gloat and make any kind of mistakes like that. I think they're locked in. Yeah,
they're playing with a lot of energy right now. Obviously 113 points, you're not doing that if you're just kind of just walking around. They're playing with a lot of energy. They're really fired up, and I know that they want to get a rematch with Farmington. I think that's real high on their agenda is to prove that they're better than Farmington. And so I just think this is just another little blip in the road that they're going to have to get past just to get to where they want to be.
Absolutely. All right, Dave, that's all I've got on my notes.
We got Jackson as well, going to be playing
Absolutely.
in the.
I can't believe
they're going to be playing
Jackson.
in the semifinals. They get a rematch against Seckman. So and Cardinal Ritter got beat by SLU in the quarterfinals. So Jackson's got a real chance to win that district. If you can get past Seckman, then you're probably going to get Lindbergh in the championship game, which is a team that's very similar to Jackson. So Jackson's got a real shot to win that district, and so we'll see how they and Cold Deck do on Friday night as well. But they're going to have to get past the Seckman team that beat them just a little over a week ago. So the Seckman team's the best season in school history for Seckman, and they're all fired up too. So we'll see who comes out of that one. But that ought to be a good game.
And what adjustments does Jackson have to make to win that game?
They got to play with some energy. They just it didn't seem like they played. They kind of came out a little sluggish against them the first time, and I don't foresee that happening in a semifinal game, district semifinal game. I think Jackson comes out fired up. I think they get the win. I think they get the win over Seckman and get to play for that district championship. This is just kind of what Jackson does. Even in football, it doesn't matter where they're seated or whatever. It seems like they're always making that district championship game, and they're always there at the end. And these kids just know how to win.
Yeah, I feel for Jackson this season. It's kind of been not a quieter season, but they've been more under the radar, obviously, because I forgot to talk about them. But for them to do what they're doing, all credit to your team at that point.
That's tough. They're the only Class 6 team. So whenever we're talking about all these other teams, it's always like, they're playing up in St. Louis and nobody else from around here is up there. It's just kind of, it's harder to keep track of them.
Yeah. I have to knock myself for not writing that down on my notes that Jackson played this game, but also it's just like, well, I didn't look on the mission map to see what the score was. So that's on me. All right, Dave. Now, anything I'm missing?
No, I don't think so. I think we got everything taken care of here.
Yeah, shorter episode, but hey, less teams to talk about too.
Yeah, I start to say we're getting fewer and fewer teams, so we can only fill so much time.
Yeah, I think for all the teams in the area that have that possibility for moving on, I think everybody's just got those jitters right now. They're just they're anxious to see what this Friday night brings.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting Friday night, and so my question to you: how many teams do we get in the Final Four from classes 1 through 3?
Oh my gosh, in the area,
just we got 3 games. Do we get 3 teams, or we get 2 teams, or we get 1 team?
I'm going to say 2.
I'm going to say 2 as well. I'm not sure which 2 it is, but I think we get 2.
I think that's a safe assumption.
Yeah.
Now
right.
for
split in the middle.
Yeah, for classes 1 through 3, definitely 2. That's where I'm at. Now classes 4, 5, and 6.
I think we get 1.
I think we get 1. I think that's a solid assessment. But hey, we won't know until we get there. And our guesses on 1 through 3 come after this Friday night. And then hey, some towns in this area, maybe not, they're going to get a chance to celebrate.
Yeah, we may be talking some in Sunday's episode. Hopefully we're going to be talking about some Final Four trips. So.
Absolutely. All right, this has been the SEMO Sports Zone. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you Monday.